Trade reports and rumors are escalating for the Detroit Red Wings, and this one is crazy as a new report from an insider links the Red Wings to a star center. We're going to break down exactly what this means for this team moving forward as they have a position of need ahead of this trade deadline, and Steve Yzerman is poised to strike. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Red Wings Digest, but before we dive into all of that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. 98% of you who've been watching these videos on this young channel, we just kicked it off a couple days ago, have not subscribed to the channel, but a special shout out and thank you to those of you who have. The support has been unbelievable the last couple of days. But Mark, let's get right into it. Let's waste no more time. We got a new report here that links the Detroit Red Wings, albeit a little loosely, I guess, to Nazem Kadri, which is a very interesting fit. And I want your thoughts on this right away because we know that the Red Wings need and are looking for, there was a report last week, and we've touched on it in a couple of videos already, that they want a second line center. This would fit, and some of the details are actually very interesting.
I mean, it's starting to really pick up around Kadri. We've seen to start the year with the Flames. He wasn't really willing to leave the team, but now with the reports coming out that he's open to the opportunity to join a playoff team, to go on to his next role, to compete for a Stanley Cup that we've seen happen when he was with the Colorado Avalanche, it's going to get interesting. You can see the list of teams, the Wild, the Hurricanes, the Red Wings, but now diving into Kadri, a bit of an older center, let's be honest here, but someone that has a decent bit of playoff experience. This year, a bit of a down year when it comes to goals. Last year, I believe it was 35 goals that he had with the Calgary Flames. Only 9 this season, but Darius, 26 assists, 35 total points. The Flames have struggled a bit. They still, nearly pushing, trying to get to a point per game player. We can see the assists per 60, the points per 60. The numbers for Kadri look great. This is a guy that can win you faceoffs. He's going to be a gritty player that brings it every single night. And even reporters are going far as saying that this is the type of guy that teams are drooling over to see going into the playoffs. Now, this is the player that, of course, is going to cost a decent bit to get and bring into this team. We can see the stat line minus 25, but listen, that's a rebuilding team and a team stat, so we don't need to focus on that. But first off, before we get too deep into this, I just want everyone to go down right now in the comments, put Y for yes and N for no. Do you think Nazem Kadri is the perfect fit within this team? But Darius, the big thing is, I think there is a bit of a fit. Yes, it's going to cost a lot. Yes, the $7 million cap hit, we're going to get into a report speaking on the retention, but I just want your thoughts as well. What do you think Kadri could bring to this team, and does he kind of just perfectly fit on that second line center?
He kind of does, doesn't he? Right? Like, wouldn't that make a lot of sense? And like you said, a lot of teams are drooling over this player, and stay with me now. I'm going to make a couple points. They're drooling over this player because there's a possibility that you can get him on retained salary and he has term. Now, if you think back to a couple days ago, Steve Yzerman, and not just a couple days ago, we know the way Steve Yzerman works. He wants a player with term. He doesn't want to make a trade, especially with where this team is at and the chemistry that they have for a rental. That's nothing that, interests him at this point to go out and trade for a big star that's going to leave in the offseason. It doesn't make any sense. So Kadri would not be that. He would come with term. He would come at a reduced salary with the salary cap rising $10 million every summer starting last summer. So, you have that as well. And he is a bona fide, even at his age, second line center. He would play that role perfectly for you. And again, a retained salary, let's say it's even $6 million. That makes sense for a second line center. Now, his age, you have to consider that he's 33 years of age, right? He's going to get older by the end of his contract. He will be, nearing 38 years old. All of these things you have to take into consideration. But I like something that you brought up too, face-offs, right? Like, he can go in and win you a clutch face-off, and his face-off percentage isn't that great. Keep in mind, if you're like 56% in the NHL, you're a very good face-off guy, but it's not that great. However, he's playing top minutes for this Calgary Flames team. He's playing against a top competition all the time. And it's a bad team. You're looking at the plus minus. You brought that up as well. They're a bad team. If you could put him on a competitive team where he can play with a lot of fire, he's into the game and he's playing in a reduced, not necessarily sheltered role, but you have Dylan Larkin, right, that can play the role that right now Nazem Kadri's playing for the Calgary Flames. You put him on that second line, you move Cop down, you move Compher down. Now we're talking. You're lengthening the lineup a lot there, and you're already really, really strong on the wing. So I like the move. They're still going to have to go out and get a defenseman. I think we know that as well. Fans have been talking about it. See you guys down there in the comments as well. But again, let us know. Yes or no? Would you trade for Nazem Kadri? We're interested in your thoughts. But Mark, I think it could make a lot of sense for this group because you're going to have Kadri still playing at a high level for, I think, at least 3 years. And then when his contract's up, you go out and you find another center.
Because I think that's the big thing. Listen, like you said, the cap space is the biggest thing. 7 million, it's going to cost a lot, but with those reports coming through that they're willing to retain, that this is a team that is going to go out and look for even more draft capital. Yes, you're going to have to move out some big assets to bring in Kadri. Looking right now, you do have draft picks in every single round, plus the extra in the seventh. It's going to cost you an extra draft pick to get him retained. This is going to be a multi-year retention on the contract with Kadri coming through at 7 million year 4 of 7. You still have those 3 years. So the Flames want a lot. But Darius, I think it comes through perfectly. Listen, you can take this contract without retaining. We can see their deadline cap space. There's a boatload to work with, but I think at the end of the day, Steve Yzerman's going to have to look at this group and say who fits this team in the long term. You have some great prospects, the goaltending prospects, along with John Gibson, who's not a prospect, but one of the best goalies in the NHL right now. But the goaltending prospects are outstanding. You have some defensive prospects taking the next step, forward prospects, but I think you get the perfect opportunity to land that impact player. No hate to Cop, no hate to anyone within this lineup, but Nazem Kadri has done it before. He has won a Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche. Now listen, that team was also very good, but Detroit stacked. We know how good this team can be, Darius. We see the numbers. Of course, the whole narrative of what he did on Toronto obviously hurt his reputation, but he's changed that. He's a new player, and listen, if you don't have to sell the farm, I don't think there's a better center on the market that you can go out to add to this group. And with the age, that comes experience, something that this group needs when going into a playoff hunt.
Yeah, and you brought up the return if you don't have to sell the farm. That's where we should go next, because what are the Calgary Flames going to be asking for in return from Nazem Kadri? It's draft picks. It's a lot of draft capital. And I think Steve Yzerman's done a great job, by the way, of building this team up, signing the young stars to reasonable contracts. We know all that stuff, of course, but keeping the draft capital intact as well, because now they can go out and make some serious moves and hopefully make some damage in the playoffs, make some noise in the playoffs. If you look up and down this lineup, going into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, they could use some center depth. They absolutely could, right? Nazem Kadri's done it before, like you said, but in terms of a return, I feel like with any trade, almost any trade that they're going to make this year at the deadline, whether it's a defenseman or whether it's a forward, the other team is going to be asking for Kasper. I just feel like they are. I just feel like that is the ask for most players at this point. You're going to be looking at giving him up. You're going to be looking at some draft capital. But I think for the long-term success of this team and how deep you are on the wings already, and it would help if you also had, Kasper's out the door. Maybe you need another guy to play on the top line on the wing there as well. But if you add a center as good as Nazem Kadri, you can make some noise in the next couple of years with most of your young stars locked up and playing their best hockey. DeBrincat being left off the Olympic team is insane. He's top 10 in goals this year. It's insane. He's absolutely unbelievable. So they're going to continue that. They look good. They're heading into the deadline, the trade freeze, the Olympic trade freeze, on kind of a down right now because they've lost 3 in a row. But besides all that, this team we've seen all year has gelled. Do you add one more piece? That's the question mark. And are you willing to give up Kasper, probably a draft pick? Draft pick I'm not too worried about because, with the current core of this group, you'll be fine for a couple of years. You keep wanting to add pieces, right? So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Are they in a window right now? I think they are. You got the goaltender. He's a little bit older as well. Maybe you add another piece. Should be interesting. Let us know how you feel in the comments below. But Mark, any final thoughts? Because I think it could make some sense, but it really depends if Calgary is going to be reasonable in their ask.
And I think that's a big thing. If it's a bidding war, maybe you stray towards something else. I've seen some people online say, go out and get Blake Coleman. I don't know if that would be the perfect fit for this team, but it's going to be really interesting how many teams are going to get active after the Olympics. GMs are going to have a long stretch, 3 weeks to sit down, look at the roster and say, hey, our team sucks. Let's sell. We know Steve Yzerman is going to be like a shark in water, at least hopefully he does do this, and go out to acquire these guys. But Darius, I don't think it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when he goes out to make a splash.
Yeah, and a lot of fans feel like he's not going to do anything. This is the time to do something with this team. Look at the Eastern Conference. Tampa Bay, maybe. I think it's pretty wide open, I have to be honest. And you have teams like Boston and Montreal. I don't think they're going to do anything of consequence in the playoffs once they get in. They're good regular season teams, but I think with this team in Detroit, the goaltending you're getting, if you had a veteran like Kadri, you could make a run here in the playoffs. So Steve Yzerman, is he going to make a huge splash in terms of going and getting Panarin? I don't know. There's been some rumors, right? But I think he is going to do something to improve this team at the trade deadline. But we want to hear what you have to say in the comments because a lot of people are feeling one way or another. It should be pretty interesting, but let us know how you feel. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything going on with the Red Wings.